The 1950 Formula One season included the inaugural FIA World Championship of Drivers, which was contested over a 7-race series which commenced on May 13 and ended on September 3. The championship consisted of 6 Grand Prix races, held in Europe and open to Formula One cars, plus the Indianapolis 500, which was run to AAA National Championship regulations. Giuseppe Farina won the championship from Juan Manuel Fangio and Luigi Fagioli. Numerous other Formula One races, which did not count towards the World Championship of Drivers, were also held during the year. Championship summary: the inaugural World Championship of Drivers saw Alfa Romeo dominate with their supercharged 158, a well-developed pre-war design, which won all 6 European Grand Prix. All of the Formula One regulated races in this year were run in Europe. The Indianapolis 500 was not run to FIA Grand Prix regulations, and none of the regular drivers who competed in Europe competed in the 500. Alfa Romeo drivers consequently dominated the championship, with Giuseppe Farina edging out Juan Manuel Fangio by virtue of his 4th place in Belgium. Although the Indianapolis 500, which ran to different regulations, was included in the World Championship each year from 1950 to 1960, it attracted very little European participation and, conversely, very few American Indianapolis drivers entered any Grand Prix. Championship points were awarded to the top 5 finishes in each race on an 8, 6, 4, 3, 2 basis. 1 point was awarded for the fastest lap of each race. Points for shared drives were divided equally between the drivers, regardless of how many laps each driver completed during the race. Only the best 4 results from the 7 races could be retained by each driver for World Championship classification. British Grand Prix . The Alfa Romeo team dominated the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, locking out the 4-car front row of the grid. Giuseppe Farina won the race from pole position, also setting the fastest lap. The podium was completed by his teammates Luigi Fagioli and Reg Parnell, while the remaining Alfa driver, Juan Manuel Fangio, was forced to retire after experiencing problems with his engine. The final points scorers were the Works Talbot Lagos of Yves Cabanchas and Louis Rosier, both 2 laps behind the leaders. Monaco Grand Prix . Scuderia Ferrari made their World Championship debut around the streets of Monaco. Their leading drivers, Luigi Villoresi and Alberto Ascari, had to settle for the 3rd row of the grid, however, while the Alfa Romeos of Fangio and Farina again started from the front row, alongside the privateer Maserati of Jose Copyright Froila N. Gonzalez. Policita Fangio took a comfortable victory, also setting the race's fastest lap, a whole lap ahead of Ascari, with the 3rd-placed Louis Chiron a further lap back in the Works Maserati. A first-lap accident, caused by the damp track, had eliminated 9 of the 19 starters including Farina and Fagioli while Gonzalez, who had incurred damage in the pile-up, retired on the following lap. Villoresi, although delayed by the accident, had made his way through the field to 2nd place, but was forced to retire with an axle problem. Fangio's win brought him level with Farina in the point standings. Indianapolis 500 . The Indianapolis 500, the 3rd round of the inaugural World Championship of Drivers, was won by the Curtis Craft Offenhauser of Johnny Parsons, ahead of the Diet Offenhausers of Bill Holland and Maury Rose. The race was stopped after 138 of the scheduled 200 laps due to rain. Swiss Grand Prix . Alfa Romeo's dominance continued when the World Championship returned to Europe for the Swiss Grand Prix at the tree-lined Bremgarten circuit just outside of Bern. Fangio, Farina and Fagioli locked out the front row of the grid for Alfa, while the Ferraris of Villoresi and Ascari started from the 2nd row. Fangio was the initial leader, starting from pole position, but he was passed by Farina on lap 7. Ascari and Villoresi were both able to compete with the 3rd Alfa of Fagioli in the early stages, although both had retired by the 10-lap mark. Farina took the win and the fastest lap, finishing just ahead of Fagioli, while Rosier, in 3rd place as a result of Fangio's retirement, took Talbot Lago's first podium. Farina's 2nd win of the season put him 6 points clear of the consistent Fagioli, while Fangio was a further 3 points behind, having only scored points in one race. Belgian Grand Prix. Alfa Romeo took their third front-row lockout of the season at the Belgian Grand Prix at the 8.7-mile Spa-Francorchamps circuit, while the Ferrari of Villoresi shared the second row with the privateer Talbot Lago of Raymond Sommer. The Alfas were once again untouchable at the start of the race, but when they stopped for fuel, Sommer emerged as an unlikely race leader. His lead, however, was short-lived and he was forced to retire when his engine blew up. Fangio ultimately took the victory, ahead of Fagioli, who again finished second. Rosier again made the podium in his Talbot Lago. He had been able to pass the Polar-Sitter Farina when the Italian picked up transmission problems towards the end of the race. It was not all bad for Farina, however, as he picked up the point for fastest lap. Both Fagioli and Fangio closed the gap to Farina in the points standings. Fagioli was just 4 points adrift, while Fangio was a further point behind. French Grand Prix. At Reims-Gua, Alfa Romeo were largely unchallenged at the French Grand Prix, due to the withdrawal of the works Ferraris of Ascari and Villoresi. The Alfas produced yet another lockout at the front row of the grid, with Fangio taking pole for the third time in 6 races. Farina, starting from second, led for the first quarter of the race before fuel problems put him to the back of the field. He fought his way back to third before he was forced to retire. Fangio picked up the fastest lap on his way to his second consecutive victory. Fagioli finished second for the 4th time out of 5 starts, while Peter Whitehead, in a privateer Ferrari, took a maiden podium in his first start of the season. Fangio took the championship lead as a result of his victory. Fagioli remained in second, while Farina dropped to third, 4 points behind his Argentinian teammate. Italian Grand Prix. The final round of the season was the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, and all 3 of the regular Alfa Romeo drivers were in contention for the title. If Fangio finished first or second, he would win the title, regardless of what his teammates achieved. If Farina failed to score at least 5 points, he would be unable to take the title. Fagioli's only chance of becoming world champion was if he won the race and set the fastest lap. Even then he would need Farina to finish no higher than third, and Fangio would have to score no points at all. Fangio again took pole position, but Alfa Romeo could not make it a 5th front-row lockout of the season, as Ascari qualified second for Ferrari. Farina started from third, while Consalvo Sainz completed the front row in an additional Alfa Romeo. Fagioli could only manage 5th on the grid, alongside the 5th Alfa of Piero Taruffi, the 2nd Ferrari of Dorino Serafini, and Sommer in a Talbot Lago. Farina took the lead early on, with Ascari and Fangio not far behind. Ascari briefly held the lead, but was forced to retire when his engine overheated. 2 laps later, problems with his gearbox meant that Fangio also retired. Taruffi's car, which was now running in second, was taken over by Fangio, although the Argentinian was forced to retire for the second time in the race, this time with engine problems. Ascari took over Serafini's car and ultimately finished second behind Farina, whose victory clinched the title by taking him 3 points clear of Fangio. Fagioli finished third in the race, and ended up in the same position in the Drivers' Championship standings. Championship Review. In this first World Championship of Drivers, 14 teams participated, along with a number of privately entered cars, in the 6 European Grand Prix. Only U.S. teams, constructors and drivers participated in the Indianapolis 500. The chassis, engine and car numbers varied from race to race. Grand Prix. Teams and drivers. The following teams and drivers competed in the 1950 FIA World Championship of Drivers. 1950 World Championship of Drivers. A Euro final standings, italics indicate fastest lap, bold indicates pole position, a Euro position shared between more drivers of the same car, only the best 4 results counted towards the championship. Numbers without parentheses are championship points. Numbers in parentheses are total points scored. Non-championship race results. The following Formula One races, which did not count towards the World Championship of Drivers, were also held in 1950. References